on a Plakatstil style poster using a photograph as a template. So what I've done is I've just opened up a JPEG of the guitarist and next what I'm going to do is open up my layers palette. If your layers palette is not open, like all of the panels, you can go to Window and click down, and as you can see the layers panel is checked off, or you can hit F7. Either way is fine. We want to keep this background layer intact. So there's a few different ways that we can get around this while we're making our selections. So we're going to select out each individual part and then build the highlights and shadows on top of it. So we'll create a background layer for the white shirt that will be the base, and then we'll probably have two midtones there since the white shirt is the highlight, and then we'll have a midtone and a shadow. So to do this, we're going to primarily be using the magic wand tool and the quick selection tool. These are not my favorite tools for doing composite images, which takes a lot more critical of an eye and a much more precise selection. But I'm going to use we're going to start off with the shirt since we've already talked about that. We'll do 2 or 3 different components so you can get an idea of what we're doing. So I'm going to come down here to my zoom tool, or I can just hit Z. I always have scrubby zoom off. If you look at the control panel at the top, scrubby zoom is a new zoom. If you click on it, it kind of drags in and out. I personally have not been able to get used to this. So I'm just going to leave scrubby zoom off. I'm going to make sure that that checkbox is off. But again, that's something that is your preference. And I'm going to click and drag so I can get in fairly close to the white shirt. In some cases, and as I demoed in class, in some cases I'll go ahead and silhouette the entire image and have a background of the entire figure rather, not image. In this case though, I'm just going to grab on to the head, the shirt, the pants, and make those individual backgrounds, and then have a highlights and shadows for each of those components for that. You just need to make sure that you have some overlapping going on, as you'll see, because we'll do the head, the shirt, and the tie, and you'll see what I mean by the overlapping. So I'm going to come over here and just start using my quick selection tool. The cool thing about the quick selection tool is it's very quick. It doesn't always work the way you want it. I think this is actually in a negative mode. So if you get this little minus sign, just go up to the control panel and hit plus. And so it should be in by default as an additive, but it's probably what I was using the last time I had this project open, was in negative mode. So I'm going to go ahead, because I want to use my layers to my advantage, I'm going to go ahead and select all throughout the tie and the strap, and I'm even going to add some where his shirt would fall underneath the guitar. So I'm going to go through here, select all of that. Now you can see down here where his guitar, it actually picked up a large part of the guitar, which I do not want necessarily. But I might keep it, so we'll get in more. But it is important to have this really nice line here between the guitar and the body. So I'm going to actually take this out, clean it up, add that back. So a lot of times with these quick selection tools, as you can see, it's a lot of going back and forth and adding and taking away. And many times I find that they're just, a bigger hassle than they're worth. It's really worse. So at certain times, sorry about that jump, certain times I just go back to the the lasso tool or the pen tool. So we want to have some really nice and precise lines here. So it's very easy to go back and forth between the different selection tools. So here I'm going to kind of clean some of this stuff up. That looks pretty good. His shirt, as you can see as I'm zooming around, what I'm looking for is to see if I have any little marching ants anywhere inside the shirt where I want it to be solid. And I'm still kind of on the fence how I want to deal with this shirt here. So I'm going to go up to my polygon lasso tool. Now normally the lasso tool is set at the regular lasso tool, which works fairly well if you have a Wacom tablet or some other kind of drawing tablet, but in this case we do not. So I'm just going to go ahead and switch it over to the polygon lasso tool. So I'm going to go down to this middle one. You can also come up here, move my screen recording out of the way. Oops, I jumped. You can also come up here and click down onto the different tools that you'd like. So let's see here. Now with this case it's not in the additive and subtractive mode automatically, so I'm having to hold the shift key down, and if I want to add I hold the shift key down, and then I double click to close it. But in this case I actually want to remove some of this. So I'm holding down the Alt key, and then I can come over and clean up some of this on the guitar. And this is just a point and click. It's not like the pen tool where you have handles to create Bezier curves. So it's really important to get in nice and tight and close. Now in this case I'm pretty far out so you guys have a better idea of what I'm doing, but if I were really to do this I would be quite much closer, probably around 800 to 1000% of zoom ratio. So I'm coming around and I'm just going to take out the rest of this guitar here. Getting a little sloppy, but it's alright. It's alright for the demo. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave this part of this guitar in, because this will be covered up eventually by the guitar, so we're fine. Zoom back out now. I've got this little, and to do that I'm hitting Control or Command 0. That takes it all the way down so the image will fit in the screen. And I have this little bit of white shirt down here which I want to add in. So I'm going to come on up and select, and take the direct select, or the quick select tool rather, and I'm going to go ahead and add to the selection that I already have. Now what I don't want to do at this point is I want to add color, but I do not want to change the pixels of my template, my background photograph. So to do this, I can either choose a color that I like, and hit Alt Delete. So let's say I get my eyedropper tool, click on a base white that I like, and maybe not a pure white. Let's give it some little bit of texture. Let's see here. And then still not happy with that white, but let's go. That's good. Anyway, so from this point what I'm going to do is I could hit Command J or Control J, and that's going to jump my selection into a new layer. The problem with doing it this way is now at this point what I've done is I've just created a duplicate. Let me zoom this out, and I haven't filled any color. It's not really what I really wanted to happen. So I can, just like I did in the color worksheet, is I can go ahead and lock transparent pixels, and then I can click Alt-Delete. And what that does is fills all of the pixels, not the transparent pixels, but all the other pixels with the foreground color, as you can see. Now its tie is gone. To look at another way to do this, let's go back. I'm going to shut this layer 1 off. Now I'm going to go ahead and name this white shirt. That will let me know, or you can call it base shirt or whatever. Just give yourself a nice description. So I'm going to give that a name. We've got to organize our layers because it's very easy to get lost in 20, 30 layers trying to figure out what everything is. So I've shut that off, so now I can just see back to my background layer. Click on the background layer, make sure that it's highlighted blue. Now I'm going to start working on some of these textures and highlights and shadows. So I'm going to go in and click on my quick selection tool, and underneath that one quick selection tool I have a magic wand, and that's the one I'm going to use for this. Now the magic wand has a number of different controls, and one of them is the tolerance. So the tolerance is by default and has always been set at 32. Well, we'll see how that works, and that controls how close to the point selection, the point sample that it will select similar. So I'm going to start collecting some midtones on the white shirt to help create some texture and depth and detail. So with my magic wand tool, I'm going to just click once. Now unlike the direct select tool, if I click again, it is going to drop my selection. That's a better example. This is selected, this right shoulder is selected. If I click over here on the left shoulder, it doesn't keep that selection, it just replaces it with a new one. So to make it go into an additive mode, I'm going to drop, oops, not that, Control D to drop the selection. I'm going to first select on that shadow that I'm looking for, and then I'm going to get the shadows down here on the shirt, so I'm going to shift click. And you can see the little plus sign by the magic wand tool. That tells you it is in the additive mode. So I'm going to click around and select, oopsie, and in that case I selected more than I wanted, so what I can do here is just Control Z and it will go back. Control or Command Z if you are on the Mac. Control Z if you're on the PC platform. And again, it did it again. Control Z. So what I can do here is reduce my tolerance. I'm going to come up, I still have my selection, but I'm going to go up here and change my tolerance to maybe 20%, or you can try, oops, I meant 20, 15. Let's try 15%. So we're making it more selective to that original point sample. So again, holding down the Shift key, now this time it just selected some more of that light gray without selecting all of the white shirt, which I don't want. Now I also can't forget about my other arm over here, so I'm going to select more. Again, still holding the Shift key down with every click to make sure that I don't replace my selection that I'm adding to it. Okay. And now at this point, I'll show you another way that might be more efficient to add that texture in. So I'm just going to come down here to my layers panel, and I'm going to click on the new layer icon. Looks like a little piece of paper with the corner folded up. And I'm going to drag that to the top of my stacking order, and I'm going to name this one midtones or midtones shirt. And then I'm going to make a selection using my eyedropper tool. I'm going to come over here and choose one of this, just click inside one, the shadow, and choose the one that I like. And that's a little more purpley than I want. Choose this down here. That's more neutral gray. And then I can hit Alt-Delete, and it fills it with a nice midtone that I'm looking for. Now if I turn my shirt on, I can start seeing that, and I'm going to drop my selection. You can see that now I'm starting to make some even though it's flat color, I'm starting to see some three-dimensional shape starting to happen just from doing those quick selections, really. Now let's hop to the tie. So I'm going to again shut off my layers, two top layers, so I can see it a little bit, so I can see my background layer again. I'm going to click on my background layer, very important, and I'm going to zoom in to the tie. And this time I'm going to use the polygon lasso tool because this is actually a pretty easy selection, and it won't be too bad for you all to watch me do this. So I'm just going to click about, and I'm going to use my stacking order to my advantage here, because really I'm not too concerned about the fact that I'm just going to cut right across into here. Now when I put the guitar on top in the stacking order, this bottom section of the tie will be covered up. So I'm just going to do a real quick kind of rough selection so you guys can see it. But this time we're going to hop into the Refine Mask tool. And this Refine Mask works with all of the selection tools. Okay, so then now I've got my marching ants, so I know that my selection is closed. And I'm going to click up here on the control panel and click on Refine Mask. Now, what I can do here is bring up my radius to about 0.2, 0.3, maybe even 0.4. And you can see that it starts to soften this edge and kind of break it up, so it's going to blend more naturally. I can smooth it so it isn't quite so jaggedy. I would be very gentle with feather, staying below 1.7. And you can also change your contrast to make it look sharper. I really like that for this tie. Have a nice sharp contrasty edge. And also, if you're one of those people who tend to select on the outside or too far on the inside, you can shift your edge. I actually like the way mine was, so I'm going to leave it at 0. Now, you have different output options here. You can output to the selection, you can output a layer mask, you can output new layer with mask, a new document with layer mask. But for this particular one, I'm just going to keep it at the selection level, because we don't want to copy it, the actual pixels. We just want the selection. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So now I just have my selection, and at this point what I can do is again make a new layer. So I'm going to hop down to my layer panel and create new layer. I'm going to drag it up to my stacking order, up to the top of my stacking order, and then I'm going to double click and put this base tie. And with my eyedropper tool, either clicking on your color worksheet or on the actual photograph. In your case, you will be clicking on your color worksheet. But for just the demo, I will do it this way and click on my tie and select the blue, and then click Alt Delete. And now if I turn these on, you can see that I'm starting to form a nice illustration. So you would just continue with this process, continuing to either use the lasso tool, the direct select tool, or the magic wand to select certain colors. You can refine the edge to make it smoother. And then just make sure that you're creating new layers and naming your layers, and continue with this process until you have all of your objects created. But use your stacking order to your advantage. Make sure that things are overlapping properly. Okay? And that's it.